It's not gonna be that easy to convince us, is it? But maybe as we get deeper into this video, you too will understand why I believe Assassin's Creed Mirage is one of the most fun and entertaining games to come out this year. Keep in mind, a review is essentially just one individual's opinion, so I'll quickly explain how I approach this review, so you get a better understanding and can decide if you want to listen to what I have to say. Personally, I didn't get a review copy for Mirage, so I started playing with everyone else. Also, like many others, I watched some first impressions from players who did get the game early. And I'm not gonna lie, I was a bit uncertain and skeptical when I noticed that quite a few people had some pretty harsh criticism about the game. I was like, man, did I really interpret and anticipate the game that wrong and mislead people with my video title a couple weeks ago? Well, now that I've played around 20 hours of the game myself, I can confidently say no. I do not regret the expectations I set with my video. And while the game isn't perfect, because no game is, and I do see the criticism that comes from other reviews out there, I absolutely do not think that they are that impactful when everything else about the game is so fun and genuinely well done. I honestly think that the game has exceeded my expectations, but let's address the game's performance, so we can move on to discussing the actual game itself. A smooth game performance isn't to be taken for granted anymore. That's unfortunate, but it is the truth. So I'm all the more happy to report that for the vast majority of PC players, the game runs great and is very well optimized. I'm around 20 hours into the game and could probably count the stutters I experienced on one hand. They are pretty much non-existent. However, it's worth mentioning that I run a PC with a 4090, which isn't the average player setup. I can't personally speak for the console versions, but from what I've seen and researched, it seems to run pretty great on consoles as well. Now that we have that out of the way, let's talk about the actual game. Ubisoft described Mirage as a return to the roots. And in most aspects this is absolutely what happened. Though to be upfront with you, Mirage is a very nice mix of both the old and the new. So the game going back to its roots doesn't mean you should expect an Assassin's Creed 2, but a game that feels like a breath of fresh air, that offers a nice change of pace when compared to the recent RPGs. Gone is the bloated open world with hundreds of side objective markers on the world map, or a seemingly never-ending main story that just goes on. Mirage shows very early that the smaller developer team of Ubisoft Bordeaux understood the assignment, creating a beautiful, expansive and believable city with a lot of verticality for the parkour, and some bad and very bad guys in desperate need of assassination. Along with a story that isn't just a means to an end, but an actual interesting, engaging depiction of Basim's journey from street thief to master assassin, while also dealing with his own problems. Combine that with a stealth and parkour system that, while not being revolutionary or super innovative and having a few minor hiccups, harmonizes excellently with the dense city of Baghdad, and you get a game that is very straightforward in how it intends to entertain you, but can easily hook you for hours on end, due to how easily it succeeds in its intention. Let's break it down so you get a better understanding of what I mean. Baghdad is the very first example of how Ubisoft understood the player's desires. This is where Mirage takes place, and it is one of the most beautiful and believable cities I've ever seen in a video game. And that's partly due to the game's entire focus on this one single city. Baghdad and its surrounding outskirts, with its deserts, fields and oases, are massive, but it's not fooled with the dull emptiness and unnecessary scope that sometimes was present in the recent games. Because overall it's just that. One massive city with a few surrounding areas to immerse yourself in. And it works so well. The city is incredibly dense and authentic, and I really mean that.
The things that pass for art these days.
This was not just a marketing saying from Ubisoft. I found myself getting distracted by its beauty, atmosphere and the urge to explore or climb the highest buildings so many times. I think it's one of the reasons why I have like 20 hours in the game. And I'm only halfway through the game. Maybe a bit more, but definitely not very close to finishing it. It's also cool how NPCs react to your behavior, like this woman, reacting to our climbing skills.
no need for that.
Or this group reacting to us removing our wanted poster.
Best I stay hidden.
Oh, you evil man! Shame! God! Get the sword!
لاعتقادهم أن من شأني
تقول أمي إنها ستعلمني الحياة.
Or this guy complaining to the guard about his lost belongings that I definitely didn't take.
Watch out! There's a thief here! Guard! Help me here! Look out! I've been robbed! Guard! Help!
What's wrong? You require aid?
See that cut? All my silver. Gone.
Now I think you get my point. I love the city of Baghdad and also the cool lore you can discover while you're out exploring. But what about the core gameplay elements? Did they nail them and does it feel like an Assassin's Creed? Yes, I definitely think this feels much more like an Assassin's Creed compared to the previous games. This is mainly due to the game's heavy focus on narrative, stealth and parkour. While you could also use stealth in Valhalla or Odyssey, it wasn't usually necessary or rewarding, due to how versatile your character was in open combat. This game really lets you know very early and very clearly that you are an assassin. You're no Viking and you're certainly not a knight in full armor. Therefore, you also have to play like an assassin. You can always try attacking 4 or 5 guards in open combat, of course, but soon you will realize that the best and, to be honest, most satisfying approach will always be stealth. I have put quite a bit of time in the game by now, and it absolutely doesn't get stale to stealthily assassinate my enemies with all the tools at my disposal, thoughtfully picking off guards one by one and then dumping their bodies in the sea, or using my overpowered but badass assassin focus to get rid of a group of guards in an instant, seemingly never gets old. I definitely recommend turning off enemy proximity in the interface settings for better immersion. X-ray vision isn't really something that should be put in a stealth game in my opinion, so I definitely advise turning it off. Combat outside of stealth is kept very simple. You have a light and heavy attack, parry and dodge buttons, and that's basically it. Though it does sometimes make for cool killing animations. The entire skill tree feels useful and is tailored towards the stealth system. I especially like that there's no useless junk in there, but actually pretty cool stuff. This all goes really well with the notoriety system, the wanted system in Mirage. It's not very deep, but it gets the job done. And you should keep an eye on it and lower your notoriety level by removing your wanted posters. Because once the bar is full, you will be hunted by tough elite assassins. Of course, if you're truly a master assassin, your notoriety level shouldn't rise at all. But we know things don't always go exactly as planned. Now the parkour system could be one of the causes why things didn't go as planned. I have to say the parkour harmonizes incredibly well with the city. It's actually really fun to hop around and use the city's verticality to your advantage. And there are so many ways in how you can approach your objective, thanks to how much attention the developers paid when they designed the city. But in its essence, it's still the technical parkour system from the recent RPG games, just with a faster pace. Sometimes this can lead to tricky situations. For example, when you're climbing through a window, then realize there are 3 guards in there, but your character then simply refuses to escape through that very window you just entered in, acting like it's not there anymore. There are a few more examples that I experienced in my 20 hours, but overall I think they've done everything they could with the current system. Of course, it would have been nice to get an all-new parkour system custom-made for Mirage, but given that this was a smaller budget development by Ubisoft Bordeaux, it apparently wasn't a viable option. I do see how this can be more frustrating for other players, but I want to make it clear that the occasional clunkiness of the parkour system never severely impacted my enjoyment in the game. And like I said earlier, it is still a very fun parkour system that feels natural and authentic when combined with the city. There is something important to note, however. I changed some controls on my controller to make the parkour system and overall movement of the character feel more natural. And I think this is absolutely the way to go for a better experience. I'm gonna put these controls in the description, so we don't waste too much time here in the video. But if you intend to play Mirage on a controller, absolutely check it out. Now I also wanna give you my very brief and spoiler-free opinion on the story. I haven't finished it, but I have experienced a big chunk of it by now. And I gotta say, it took me more than I expected. I didn't buy this game for the story at all, merely for the stealth gameplay. But man, was I surprised when I found myself actually giving a damn about the characters, my mentors and friends, and of course Basim himself. I don't want to set wrong expectations here. I don't think the game's story is something that will be remembered for years to come. But I genuinely like the characters they created here. I find myself willingly looking up stuff in the codex out of curiosity, which I usually don't really do. The voice acting is great.
We could use some eyes around the city.
I'll see what I can do.
She looks important. You should haggle for a better fee.
I like the investigation system that gives you the freedom to decide what you want to do next, and is a cool way to display the progress of your actions, and an overview of how people are connected to the main plot. So yeah, the story is absolutely worth playing in my opinion. Also a quick side note, the music in this game, absolute banger. The soundtracks in-game and especially the main menu track are incredible. Now before we wrap this up, we also have to talk about the main assassination missions, where you are given a target and an open environment, and are then left to approach the objective in your own way. You are presented with multiple opportunities to gather information, create distractions, or find hidden paths that can help assassinate the target. There is a sense of freedom in how you can choose to approach these challenges, and even though the enemy AI is a bit lackluster at times, and sometimes straight up dumb, I still had a lot of fun in every one of these missions. I don't want to show or mention too much here, but just know that these missions are back in Mirage, and that I enjoyed my time with them. Now I can't truly end this video without having talked about the graphics at least once, so here we go. I've seen some complaints about the graphics being mediocre, but I honestly think that those complaints mostly come from people who play the game on last-gen consoles or with low graphic settings on PC. Because maxed out, the game is one of the most visually impressive games I've experienced so far. And I have seen some bangers like Cyberpunk with the new path tracing update, or Red Dead Redemption 2, which is still one of the most beautiful games out there when everything is maxed out. In the end guys, this is all just my opinion, and we all have different views, preferences and expectations. I think Assassin's Creed Mirage is the perfect game for you, if you want to experience some classical stealthy Assassin's Creed gameplay that the previous 3 games couldn't offer. The gameplay here is spectacular, and while the game inherits some flaws, like lackluster AI, and a parkour system that could lose some of its occasional clunkiness, the overall package of the game is very promising, and is in my eyes definitely worth the asking price of €50, which is €20 cheaper than most recent AAA games. If you plan to buy the game, or maybe already own the game, I'll be happy to see your opinion in the comments. Anyways, that's it from me for now. See you next time.